Hello and welcome to this short presentation on the maritime collections at the UK Hydrographic Office archive. My name is Emma Down and I am Deputy Head of the Archive at the Hydrographic Office. And for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about the history of the office and the archives which we hold. I'd also like to thank the Royal Commission on the Ancient and Historical Monuments of Wales for putting together all the talks this week and for inviting us to showcase our collections. The history of the Hydrographic Office spans more than 220 years and documents hydrography from the early 17th century to the present day. The Hydrographic Office was established by King George III by an Order of Council on 10th of August 1795. It was founded to support the Royal Navy and given a budget of £650 per year. Of this budget, an allowance of £100 per year was given to one of the clerks for the care of the plans and charts, and this became the very beginnings of the UKHO archive. Alexander Dalrymple was appointed as the first hydrographer, and one of his tasks was to sort and classify all the charts and surveys which the Admiralty had accumulated. This makes the archive the longest running department within the Hydrographic Office. Throughout the 19th century, the office developed to produce more than just charts. This included sailor directions, tide tables, and notices to mariners, amongst many other records. In 1821, it began to sell charts to the general public and merchant shipping through several chart agents. Throughout the 20th century, production moved to Taunton and greatly increased during wartime. Today, the Hydrographic Office is an MOD-owned trading fund and a digital-first organisation, producing both paper and digital charts and publications. Throughout its history, the office and archive has moved a number of times. It was first housed in the Admiralty building in Whitehall, and you can see a plan here on the slide. Many charts and surveys were stored in the record department, which was located in the attic rooms, and you can see this in the enlarged image. In 1923, the archive was moved from the Admiralty building to Cornwall House near Waterloo Station. Here, the surveys, charts, and other original documents were stored in the basements. During the Second World War, the archive and its staff were evacuated to Bath before moving back to London in 1946. This time they moved to Cricklewood in North London. The images on the slide here show the archive store and the curator's office, where a document is being measured. The threat of the Second World War identified the need to vacate London, and a site at Creech Barrow in Taunton, Somerset, was purchased for chart production. Taunton was chosen for its good rail and road links and its geographical position between Portsmouth and Plymouth. The new chart production factory at Creech Barrow House was opened in June 1941. The building was designed by Chief Draftsman Mr. Jowsey and was created to look like a ship, and you can see this from the drawing here of the site, which was made in 1944 by Pam Cook. In 1962, the Taunton site was extended for the relocation of compilation staff from London, and once again this brought all staff onto one site, including the archive. Today, the archive is housed in a purpose-built building which was opened in 2003. It has a dedicated reading room for members of the public to come and consult documents and temperature-controlled facilities to store the archives. So what is housed in our collections? The Hydrographic Office archive contains approximately 3 million items and counting, which covers over 300 years of maritime history and navigational information. This includes surveys, printed charts, items used for the process of printing, such as lithographic stones and copper plates, film, letters, atlases, coastal views, and aerial photography. Our earliest manuscript is of Portsmouth, and this dates from around 1620. The survey is drawn on 2 pieces of parchment which have been stuck together and shows mud flats, field boundaries, water mills, and the bastioned walls of Portsmouth, which you can see in more detail here. Unfortunately, there is no indication of who made the chart. We also hold the first government-sponsored survey of Great Britain, which was undertaken by Captain Grenville Collins in the 1680s. The survey was undertaken using a royal yacht with a crew of 20 men. The surveys were published in what was known as Great Britain's Coasting Pilot in 1693. And the example here shows the southwestern tip of Cornwall and the Scilly Isles, where Collins named a sandbank after himself, just below the Scilly Isles here. Our collections contain many items made by well-known individuals from history. This survey of the harbour of Gaspé in Quebec is attributed to James Cook, who was serving as a ship's master at the time. He would have been responsible for navigation and surveying, and the survey shows two coastal views to aid navigation, one at the top and one at the bottom of the chart. This became Cook's first published survey in 1759 and was published by Mount and Page. Many of the items in our collection also witness history. This survey of the Galapagos Islands was made in 1835 on the voyage of HMS Beagle, and this voyage famously took Charles Darwin to the Galapagos Islands, where he developed his theory on the evolution of the species. Moving on to some printed charts. This is the first chart published by the office in 1800. It shows Quiberon Bay in France and contains new information which was critical, as Britain was still fighting a war with France. This chart was only issued to Royal Naval vessels and is one of hundreds of charts produced in the early 19th century to contribute to the safety of shipping. Over the next century, chart production grew rapidly, and this was especially during wartime. During the Second World War, the department produced over 30 million charts and navigational products, which were supplied to nearly 5,000 Allied vessels. This included in excess of 1 million charts for D-Day alone, including the beach chartlet shown here for Juno Beach. These chartlets were designed solely for the 5 assault areas and were enlarged portions of the relevant chart for that area. This level of production was only possible due to the establishment of new chart production facilities like the one in Taunton. As well as our archives being heavily used by researchers and historians, they are also used by the Office for modern chart production. The example here shows a chart for Dusky and Breaksea Sounds in New Zealand from 1995. However, if I show you an enlargement of the 3 insets at the bottom, you'll see that these contain data from Captain Cook's voyage in 1773, Vancouver's voyage in 1791, and from Captain Stokes' voyage in 1851. Even though these voyages were undertaken centuries before the chart was produced, the data is still accurate and shows the longevity of the chart data that we use. Our collections contain more than just surveys and charts, though. Coastal views had long been a useful navigational tool for sailors, especially when making landfall. And the coastal views shown here were drawn by John Serres during the Napoleonic Wars. Serres went with the British fleet when they were blockading the French in Brest, and this is shown on the top view. The bottom view shown here shows the coastline of the Bay of Biscay, and both, as well as being navigational aids, can also be considered works of art. We also have an impressive collection of remark books, dating largely from the late 18th through to the end of the 19th century. These were books which would be filled out by captains and masters of ships on voyages across the globe. They record details of positions, weather, sea temperatures, and any interesting features of ports they visited. The collection has been heavily used by scientists investigating sea temperature rise, and the collection has recently been digitised, which we hope to make these images available soon. Correspondence also forms a large part of our collections. In 1819, Captain Hurd entered into an agreement with the hydrographer of Denmark to exchange charts and publications of mutual interest. Over time, international cooperation became a focus for the office, and our collections contain much correspondence between British hydrographers and their international counterparts. The hydrographer to generate most correspondence was Captain Francis Beaufort, who this letter is addressed to. It was written by Captain Fitzroy on his voyage in HMS Beagle, which we saw a survey from earlier. Beaufort also developed the office by introducing the first Admiralty tide table in 1833, and of course by developing his famous wind scale. The archive doesn't just hold paper records though. We have a number of artefacts in our collections, including instruments for navigation such as globes and sextants and compasses, and these engraving tools. Engraving underpinned chart production for centuries until the digital age. It required a lot of skill and patience as the plates would have to be engraved in reverse. And part of an apprentice engraver's training would be to make a box like the one shown here to keep all their tools in, which they would use to engrave their copper plates. Today the archive is still growing. One of our most recent very large accessions was in 2006 when Her Majesty's Nautical Almanac Office transferred to the Hydrographic Office and we inherited their archives. This included the Nautical Almanac and Astronomical Ephemeris, which was first published in 1766. This volume has been continually published for more than 250 years, and it is now known as the Nautical Almanac. And you can see how the publication has developed here from the first to one of the most recent ones. If you'd like to know more about our archives, then you can visit our website. And if you have any inquiries, then you can also direct them to our research team on the email shown here. We hope to launch an online catalogue very soon, so do please look out on our website for that. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the talks.